Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you today, and first I'd like to thank Governor Hochul for her continued support of this truly transformative program going back to her days as LG. We know what a champion she has been for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, or the DRI. Over the past year, as Secretary, I've been traveling all over the state to see the communities that have been positively impacted by the DRI program. And while I still have many communities to see, the one other remarkable point is that for all the communities that I've visited, they're all saying, Kathy's been here first. The same is the case for Gloversville and for Little Falls. All of these communities appreciate her time and commitment to them, but also more importantly to ensuring that all communities, big and small, are invested in. And that's what the Downtown Revitalization Initiative is really all about. It is the cornerstone of our economic development strategy that focuses on transforming downtown communities into vibrant centers that offer high quality of life and become magnets for redevelopment, for business, job creation, and economic and housing diversity. But it's when you visit these communities on the ground and see firsthand and talk to the local leadership that you understand the dramatic changes that they have in sight for their communities. And it's because of the strategic plan that you have all put in place here today that that dream comes to fruition. And the Department of State is proud of its role in helping this flagship program by providing the technical assistance needed for each participating community, helping to convene the local leadership to develop this strategic investment plan that identifies the specific projects that we're all collectively investing in to help align that vision of your downtown with the dollars. And then it's working with this local planning commission on the implementation to make sure that these projects that you all see come to fruition. So it really is a collaborative partnership between the state and the local elected officials and stakeholders. That's the success to the DRI program and the transformation that happened in DRI communities. So I'm certainly proud of the work that our teams at the state collectively do to make sure that every I and T is crossed and to make sure that the work of this program takes effect for the people of New York. So I look forward to seeing all the projects that we're going to be unveiling here today in the two communities turn into epicenters of activity, opportunity, and vibrancy. So with that, let me introduce the Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul. Thank you.
Good morning, and first of all, to our Secretary of State, Robert Rodriguez, I want to thank him for picking up where I left off. I didn't think anybody would try to match the amount of travel I did as Lieutenant Governor, but you're certainly in competition, and I'm glad you're doing that. That's exactly what I wanted you to do, to show up in communities like this and let them know they matter, and I'm grateful to your work in your entire department, so thank you, Robert Rodriguez. I also want to thank the Glove Board President, James Hannas, for welcoming us here today. What a place this is. And to all the Board of Directors, the people who love this theater. It goes back to 1914 when they were running movies, and then you've had the chance. I know it was shut down for a little while. Most of you are probably too young to remember that era, but there was a time when these downtowns couldn't sustain theaters like this, and I lived through that in my hometown. My hometown, not unlike this, on the other side of the state, but the story was so similar, where the great majesty and the vision of downtowns really lost their luster, particularly when we lost a lot of the manufacturing. And I don't want to throw back to some dark days, but I lived through them as well. And so a lot of these great gems were left unpolished for a long time, and I want to thank some of our leaders here today. Vincent DeSantis, the mayor of Gloversville, who believed in this theater. Thank you. Thank you for bringing people together years ago and saying, yes, we can bring this back to life, and that is what we're going to continue. Your vision here today, Mayor DeSantis. Also, we have our great mayor from Little Falls, Mark Blask, has joined us. And To those who wonder why I always make sure I'm surrounded by my local government officials, I spent 14 years in local government, so I have an appreciation, and I take that to Albany with me, which is why I've, in the short time I've been governor, made sure that this whole idea of Albany knows best top-down approach is basically obliterated, that we start with the bottom up, where the people who have the real pulse in their communities are. So I thank all of you for the local work you do in Little Falls and Gloversville. We also have our senator, Peter Orbacher is here. I want to thank him and congratulate him on his new tenure here. I don't think he's going to represent part of this district, but he's going to have a new expansive area, but I think his heart will always be in Little Falls as well. Also, Robert Smullen, our Assembly member, who picks up Little Falls and represents Gloversville, and what a privilege that it certainly is to our Assembly member, our senators. Let's give them a round of applause. Renee Sheldo-Shavat is here as well. I want to thank her. I want to stand up, Renee, because of all the great work you do, the Mohawk Valley REDC. I know her most as the owner of one of the most extraordinary tourism places and a place of education and learning and family gatherings. That is the Herkimer Diamond Mine. And I've probably been there more than any other place I've been to, and I love this place. And so thank you for going through some challenging times, but always rising up from the ashes. And I thank you for your friendship here as well. So here we are. This is great because I'm an upstater, a little knowledge of this whole region from having lived up here and vacationed up here. I used to always come here and go up to the gate, go through the Old Forge, the Gateway of the Adirondacks as part of our family vacations, came through many of these communities. And so these communities matter to me personally. And it's part of the commitment of a DRI, the fact that we are investing over $10 million, not shared between these two communities, but each community to receive what, when I was in local government, if someone had come to my small town and said, here's a plan, community members envision your future, and here's $10 million to do it, I would have fallen off a chair because Albany never did that for us back then, which is why as governor, I'm really continuing to ramp this program up and make sure more communities know how to apply for it, bring together all the stakeholders, not just the elected leaders, but the people they convene, the people who care so much about their communities. And that's what I love about being able to be governor of such a fascinating place and to go to places which really represent the quintessential upstate charm. That's my branding of what we have in both these communities because there's nothing like it. The unique architecture, the downtowns, it's always about the libraries too. I spend so much time in a little tiny library in my hometown, mostly escaping a lot of very loud siblings. So I read a lot of books when I was a child. Big Irish Catholic family, there was never any room for us, so I always used to go over to the libraries. And so I know how libraries matter. And in the library we have here in Gloversville, I remember going through it when it just needed some love, probably back in 2015 or so. And I think when you invest in theaters, you invest in libraries, you're investing in bringing out the grandeur of the past, but you're also saying we're on a path to the future so our children's children will be able to enjoy the same quality of life that many have enjoyed here as well. So it's about reimagining a whole new future, and the people I just acknowledged are part of that. This theater, is part of a community that also had a global reputation. I mean, Gloversville, gloves. It's amazing to know that, from 1850 or so to 1890 to 1950, 90% of all the gloves sold in the United States were made here. I mean, that's almost mind-boggling to think about. The number of people got up every day and went to their jobs creating something that people wore all over our country. And that was a time when people wore gloves more than just on a cold winter day. I mean, this was part of a fashion statement. Everybody wanted to wear very elegant gloves. And I had a chance to tour the Sunderland Leather Company a few years back and was so proud that back in, I think it was 2018 for the Olympics, they were designing the gloves worn during the opening ceremonies of the 2018 Winter Olympics. So there's a story that's not just rooted in the past. These are current stories. These are current points of pride that I want passed on for the generations to come, and that's why we keep investing in communities like this. And also, Little Falls, I think it's known as the second smallest city in New York State. Is that accurate? Okay. Oh, it's number 2. Okay. When you're number 2, you try harder, or something? Is there something? Okay. No, we love. That's also just a statement of it matters. I mean, this is part of its identity, and it's an identity. And I really believe a community like Little Falls punches above its weight, for having a smaller community population-wise, you still have that charm and that character and that personality that is the envy of places around the country. If you travel around many parts of the country, you go to the south, you go out west, I mean, they were not built at the time our communities were built. Well, we're the ones who own that, the architecture, the history that the East Coast is known for, particularly here in New York State, and places like Gloversville and Little Falls still drip with that heritage and that charm. And so I've been to these state regions so many times. I love going up to the hardware store in Old Forge many times, walk through there. All of a sudden you see things I didn't know I needed that. So all of a sudden I've got a whole basket full of things I didn't know I needed. And again, as I mentioned, going to the diamond mines of the Adirondacks, there's so many great things. But as I mentioned, we did experience, and those who might be older than very young would remember that there was an era of industrial decline when there was global competition. We lost the textile, the manufacturing. They went overseas or they went down south. And it was a hard hit. I grew up in a steel town, and we lost the steel plant to foreign competition. All of a sudden, overnight, 20,000 jobs where my dad and grandpa and everybody worked were gone. And you didn't have the state stepping in and saying, here's money to help reimagine your next phase. You just wallowed in decline, and it was depressing. And I mentioned that big Irish Catholic family. I'm the only one left in the state of New York because they all had to leave to find jobs. They all wanted to stay, and not one of them could find a job back in the late 70s and 80s, and it's a tragedy. So I'm seared in the knowledge of what can happen when the jobs are not there and what communities can look like when the jobs are there. And that's why I was so proud to come to this region and announce the magnificent Wolf Speed project, for a $500 million investment from the state to help Wolf Speed, create over 600 jobs in this area. That was last year. And then all of a sudden we have an opportunity with Micron. Now you may not think, what does Micron have to do with me here in Gloversville or Little Falls? I cannot tell you the supply chain opportunities that are going to arise from a company that is going to hire 50,000 people, 9,000 direct, 50,000 indirect, because there's going to be businesses in smaller communities and outlying areas that are created by the young talent that don't have to go to a different place. They don't have to go to bigger cities to find those opportunities. If we're smart and use this as an opportunity to supercharge the whole upstate economy, and I will tell you, when I talked to the leaders of Micron, who were really dead set on going to Texas, they had their foot out the door. They were just looking at us to be polite, I think. I got them in a room and I started talking. I said, have you experienced Erie Canal communities? Have you been to the Finger Lakes? Have you been up to the Adirondacks? Do you know about what we have up in the St. Lawrence Seaway, the Thousand Islands? Do you know how beautiful this area is? Do you know how affordable these smaller communities are? Do you know the quality of life, the quality of education, our health care? All of a sudden, they started thinking about not necessarily what makes sense for a company, but about what makes sense for their employees. How will they attract the people from around the country and perhaps the globe to want to come to a place? And when you start thinking about these unique assets that we have, this is how you can bring the jobs here. They'll bring more workers, so maybe you'll grow even bigger than the second smallest. You might be larger. So what I want you to know is I see an opportunity here that is brand new. Nobody else has had to think about what that means for the small towns that dot upstate New York when you have the opportunity for a company to bring thousands and thousands of jobs. So I think we just seize this as well. And what we're doing here is polishing up and sprucing up our downtowns and giving them the charm. When this theater is completed, it's going to be extraordinary. And I better start mentioning the projects. I'm going to get carried away. This theater, you didn't want to tip the hat. This theater's one of them. So I think I better get down to business here. I could just go on and on. My love of this region. And I know all of you feel the same way. And that is why, having two communities here be able to be announced, first Gloversville, we have announcing today, you knew about the money coming, but then which of the projects are selected. And because we want to do everything, but let's take the first 12. And the first award will be $1,900,994 to renovate the historic Globe Theater. It's almost $2 million of investment in this place. Surprise, surprise. Again, this theater is a downtown anchor. We spruce it up. You continue, all the great work that's being done here, and James and others have more plans. I know you have your movie night on Wednesdays, and you have some live theater and congregate here, but this is going to be magnificent. And so this is going to bring more people downtown, and those who live here already just say, why not? Why shouldn't this be spectacular? So it's also about, it's about creating a sense of place and a place people gather for entertainment. It's part of a quality of life. But also, these awards are intended to enhance connectivity. What does that mean? We are going to be developing the St. Thomas Square for year-round activities. I think it's $1.1 million, $1.1 million, $20,000 for more public gatherings, more recreational use, especially kids' activities. Any kids we're representing? So look at that. St. Thomas Square looks gorgeous. Also, streetscapes. My gosh, my hometown was so run down. The curbs were just worn down, and it's just like you drove through, you just wanted to hang your head. Like, oh my gosh, there's no, nice streetscapes or signs or little park benches and little plants. And when you do all those, it says that there's pride in this community, that this community matters, and that's why we're going to allocate $441,000 to improve the streetscapes and connect downtown with the regional trails as well. Let's make it more walkable communities. And a downtown piazza. Piazza, that's a fancy word. Yeah. $435,000 to transform a vacant lot into a space for concerts and outdoor movies in an urban park. I think that's going to be magnificent as well. So let's get that started. We're going to be enhancing public amenities at the Trail Station Park. $495,000 for that project. That's going to be another great magnet for the people who want to just be enjoying the outdoors. That's going to be fabulous. So we talk about connecting people. We talk about creating entertainment venues, but also places people can afford to live. So we're going to be investing in more affordable housing and supportive and senior housing. So those who grew up here can live in the same community where their children are now raising their kids. So we're going to be redeveloping and renovating historic buildings and old mills into mixed-use housing. And I love to see this. I love to see this because you're sprucing up the exterior for a community to experience, but also you're making it a home for someone, a place that had just been walked past for many, many years and no one believed that there could actually be such life inside. So now this is going to be homes for people. So I'm real excited about that. So let's start with the historic carriage house, $1.3 million to focus on. And I have a belief, this is maybe because I'm Irish, but I believe that every vibrant downtown needs to have a brewery or microbrewery. It's just how it goes. So we're going to have a full-service microbrewery and a restaurant, 7 studio housing units, and event space right in that space there. I think it's going to be magnificent, so that's very, very exciting. Let's construct the Glove City Lofts, $1.2 million, new housing on vacant lot near City Hall. That'll be 75 loft-style houses for mixed-income tenants. The Daniel Hayes Mill, over $1 million to redevelop this space, over 20 apartment lofts and green space for recreational use. So those are some of the main projects we'll be talking about. We also want to make sure that the downtown businesses who hung on through some tough times, especially during the pandemic, that we help them, improve and have the resources they need. A lot of it, again, this has happened in my hometown. The exterior of the facades declined. I mean, no one was maintaining them. The sides look run down and just like, you'd have a little deli across the street from my mother's little flower shop. My mom started a flower shop in the middle of a recession. That's my mother. And it was tough. And I'd sit there and wait for that little bell to ring that some customer came in, and it took a long time for that bell to ring. So I knew those were tough times a couple decades ago. But there was a little delicatessen across the street, and they used to have handwritten, scribbled on piece of paper, slapped in the window, 6-pack of Jenny Cream Ale, $2 or whatever, we kind of want to say, can you just maybe up the game a little bit here? So, because what one neighbor does affects the others as well. You want to have this sense of we have our act together. And so the Downtown Business Improvement Fund, over $600,000 will help them achieve that. I think that's really important. So let's make sure we take advantage of that. Transforming the former garage building into headquarters for Glove City Brewing, $359,000. $359,000. That's going to be charming. I love the way love the way that looks. We'll renovate Shine Memorial Hall, $346,000. That's going to be great. Revive the former City Hall for $250,000. So Gloversville, I think that's enough to get started with here today. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to the residents of Gloversville. This is amazing. So, and we'll talk about Little Falls in a second, but these are just the resources behind the projects and the fun part when we come back for the ribbon cutting. So I look forward to returning many, many times right here. So congratulations to the community. Little Falls, Little Falls. Now let's announce the awards for Little Falls. As I mentioned, our focus is creating communities and reestablishing communities as great places to work, to live, to play. And part of it is a place for our seniors to live as well. So we'll be allocating $2.5 million, creating affordable senior housing at the M&T building, renovating that and adding new building components as well. Again, allowing people to stay in the community that they grew up in themselves. So $2.5 million for that senior housing project as well. That'll have 75 units. It'll create commercial space as well as health and wellness facilities. And also, we want to improve the library, $500,000 to improve access for the library. Love our libraries. And access to the waterfront. Again, we are going to be really, really putting more of a focus on with the Reimagine the Canals and the milestones coming, the reopening of the anniversary of the canals. There's so much planned, and to be able to be positioned right there, we're going to be having over $640,000 allocated to help expand public access to the waterfront and to the canal. I think that's going to be amazing. And there's coordinated marketing along the length of the Erie Canal. From the terminus of the Erie Canal from Buffalo, I look out my window and I see the original, well, the replica of the original canal side. So we want to make sure that tourism, people visit the entire length of it, and we want to make sure that every part of it. So I know a lot of work's been done, but we have even more plans there as well. We also want to modernize the downtown corridors, make sure that they are the center of business and commerce and entertainment. So we'll be enhancing the connectivity of Sealy Street and expand recreational opportunities, $1.8 million. Transforming Sealy Street into a bicycle and pedestrian waterfront walkway, and that's going to be fabulous. Also, modernizing and replacing the iconic Little Falls canopy. Let's make that spruced up, $1.6 million. The entire length of Main Street, that's going to be beautiful. Again, the streetscapes, I love the streetscapes. Park benches, nice wayfinding signs, and just fixing it, having pots of plants hanging. I love all that. We're going to be having the Main Street streetscape spruced up with $1.6 million, including creating bike panes and repaving the corridor. Again, you have to have the curbs in the street looking nice and spruced up. That signals to passers through as well as the resident that it's the community that matters. So $1.6 million for that. Again, for our small businesses, let's help them out again as well and make sure that we have money to help them do what they choose to do to spruce up, and over $600,000 to help fund the small business development. So make sure we get the word out to all of them. This is charming. And to help families who live here now, who want to come here, that we tell them we also believe in our children and taking care of them. And so we'll be investing over $390,000 to increase high quality child care and community right here as well. So So that's what we're going to be doing, investing in our families and our downtowns, our waterways, our seniors, and so it's all coming together. So I just want to thank all of you. You know, these were not our ideas. We didn't sit there in Albany and say, hey, let's imagine the future of Gloversville and Little Falls. No. I thank those of you who put in countless hours, and I've been on those committees. I've been in those rooms, and you sit there late into the night and say, you know, what can we do? What is the legacy that we will leave for our children? So they know that back in 2022, 2023, there were people, elected leaders, community leaders, business people, who all came together and said, we care, and we're going to continue investing our time and our talents and our passion for these two spectacular communities. And generations from now, they'll be grateful that you were in this room on this day and went forth to execute the extraordinary vision that you all formulated. And I'm grateful, as the governor of the state of New York, I'm grateful to have people like all of you who love your community so deeply. So this is the future. This is the spirit that we're going to continue embracing. It's a whole new era, and let's lean hard into the future. Congratulations to Gloversville and to Little Falls. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. At this time, let's see whether our mayors have any reaction. First, let's start with Mayor Vincent DeSantis, and I'll let him have a couple minutes of your time and let you know his reflections on today. So, Mayor DeSantis.
We're really honored to have Secretary of State Rodriguez and Governor Hochul here with us in person today for this. It's really a great honor. You know, back, 6 years ago, I think, when the first DRI came out, that's exactly what happened, Governor. They came and said, you know, we've got $10 million, put in an application, and we did. We fell off our chairs. And we tried to put together, you know, within a couple of months, an application year. We've been applying to DRI ever since. This is our 5th try, and the 5th try is the charm. But back then, we thought it was a one-off. We thought maybe that was the only time that we were going to have a chance to do that. And then after that, when the DRI appeared in the state budget year after year for a few years, what we realized that it was a stroke of genius from Albany, because it got every city in the state thinking about the future. Everyone thought about, God, what would we do with that $10 million? And here in Gloversville, we were thinking very hard. And the thought process expanded not only to encompass downtown, but the whole city. And so over that time, when we kept on reapplying for that DRI, we were also doing a lot of other things to build a new Gloversville, because that thought process was being translated into action. And we completed our local waterfront revitalization plan that covered about 60% of the area of the city. And we're in the final throes of our Brownfield Opportunity Area designation study that we were able to do for the vision for the redevelopment of brownfield sites. We are actually cleaning up brownfields with our EPA grants. We're, you know, as we speak, there's a whole area that's almost a block large being demolished right now and cleaned up. That was a former tannery, a leather tannery. And of course, we have instituted a very aggressive program of neighborhood improvement, where we actually take title to properties and market them off to good developers for rehab, or we demolish the ones that are not worthy of rehab. So we're doing all of this in the cities. We've expanded our recreational opportunities. We're improving our parks. And of course, the infrastructure, the 120, 130-year-old infrastructure that we're redoing. So it's really been a citywide effort. But this grant and the projects that Governor Hochul has highlighted here in Gloversville is the capstone of the whole thing. And it's, even though the downtown area for the DRI is compact, this is an incredibly catalytic grant that will supercharge all of the other opportunities, all of the other projects and initiatives that we have had going for us citywide. So this is really the day when we start building a new Gloversville from the center. And we're so ready to do that. We've got so many projects that are shovel ready, that are really ready to go. So 2023 is going to be a real banner year, a watershed year for our city. But there's something that I want to mention that most people don't fully appreciate. And that is that none of this, from day one, none of these projects, none of these initiatives would have been possible were it not for the largesse of the state of New York and the well-targeted funding opportunities that they made available for us throughout the entire time and that we've taken advantage of. So I just want to thank Governor Hochul personally and thank Secretary of State Rodriguez, not just for the honor of their presence here, but for the wherewithal to be able to initiate the renaissance that we're about to experience in our city. Thank you so much. Mayor Mark Blast of Little Falls.
Good morning, everyone. In 100 years, when they read this transcript back, some really bored person reads it, I would like them to read, Mayor Blast was welcomed with thunderous applause. My grandchildren, thank you. Mayor DeSantis, thank you for your hospitality today. I feel as though we should apologize because Little Falls only applied one time, but Secretary Rodriguez, Governor Hochul, we really cannot thank you enough. And it's really for a number of things. One, it's for these incredible projects that we need. But two, it's for always remembering the little guy. We are 5,000 strong in the city of Little Falls. Our budget is $6 million. We were just given 10. You do not need to be an economics major here. This is truly transformative money. But at every turn, this administration has remembered the small municipalities, the ones who really, truly try to punch above our weight. Little Falls has seen a resurgence these past few years. There are more children in school, the housing market, it's hard to buy a house, people come. I love that one picture that was up there. It was downtown Little Falls. You saw City Hall in the back. That was our cheese festival. We grow from 5,000 to 10,000 people in that day for our cheese festival. In 2 weeks, there'll be Christmas in Little Falls. It'll be just this small town Americana. There'll be horse rides, there'll be soup festivals. Everybody will be out. And the reason that it works is because, one, we get such tremendous support from Albany that we need. My hand is out a lot. We get the support. But two, we have this collective in Little Falls of volunteers, of people who give their time, their money, and their energy that is just so heartwarming. And it's so nice to be around. Just a quick snapshot of what I mean. On Saturday, I called my LPC co-chair, Dr. Renee Shaldo-Shivat. She was down in Florida. I'm like, Renee, hey, check this out. On Monday, we're going to be in Gloversville to hear the awards, but she was in Florida. She was not supposed to come up today, and she said, I'm going to fly into Albany that morning. It's that sort of understanding the importance of today, that sort of commitment. I kind of tried to talk her out of it. I'm like, Renee, it's kind of snowy up here. I mean, we could push this back. I'm sure there'll be a PowerPoint or something. I would love to thank the local planning committee. When people say, what did you like about the DRI? I say, one, that we won, but two, this bottom-up approach, it's just good government. We went to Little Falls High School twice. We went to the middle school. We took this show on the road in Little Falls. Because when you live in a small community, you're held to a high standard. And what we talked about from day one is the process is just as important as the projects. How we get there is important. Because guess what? You're going to be in Stewart's getting a cup of coffee and somebody's going to ask you. And you need to turn around and look them right in the face and give them a direct answer. It was not easy coming up with these projects, but this is the process. We have 13 open meetings. I am so incredibly proud of the local planning committee. The great majority are here today. Please clap, please stand. Those are the people who did all the work for 7 months, and I could not be more grateful. I will also mention our tremendous city engineer, Chet Szymanski. If there's a large project or an idea in Little Falls, Chet is the midnight texter. He is all in. He is fantastic, and I absolutely love him to death. Thank you. Governor, Mr. Secretary, thank you again. This is transformative for Little Falls. This is why there was a DRI. Small communities need some help. We get some help, and we're going to be smart with the money. Thank you so much.